G'day, Bruce here, Barking Dog Bim, and welcome to another edition of Archicad Adventure. We're going to cover how to create custom door handles and custom door leaves without GDL scripting. Now, GDL is the most powerful and flexible way to create custom content, but it also requires the most time up front, time that's not always available to you, or necessarily the best choice for the project. So if you need to quickly model up a door handle or a door leaf for your project, I'll show you how to do it. I've modeled a handle here just using the native Archicad tools. In this case, it's the beam tool for these two collars and the handle itself, and the morph tool for these. So that's what the handle will look like. And I've modeled it in the positive X, Y direction, so it will orient on the door leaf correctly. As per the custom door, there's two methods by which you can save a handle: the save selection as and the create or generate from floor plan method. With the save selection as method, the relationship to the project XY is not important. So my 0, 0 is over here. So I've modeled it deliberately away from the X and Y to demonstrate what I mean. And in the 3D, if I set this to project 0, it's not on the 0 point. 0 is down there. So on my floor plan, I select all of my geometry, all of my elements that I want to save as a handle, and I go File, Libraries and Objects, Save Selection as Handle. Now on my GDL toolbar, which is the Edit GDL Library Parts toolbar, it's using the drop-down arrow next to the Save icon and save as a handle. I'll just call it Handle 1 and save it to my embedded library. You should call it something definitely more descriptive than that and save it to an external location for data safety. Unlike the custom door, there's no opportunity to rename parameters or change parameters, but we do get this dialog telling us that we have created a handle, and it's available in the settings dialog boxes of relevant objects. So yay for us. And I can now select this handle from the custom list in the Graphisoft door. So if I go to handle and kickboard, change my handle to custom, which is right down the bottom, I can now select handle 1 from the drop-down list. You can see I have already created a couple of other handles here. If this is the first handle you've created, it will just be the only one on the list. Now, I can't select a handle from the custom doors that I've created. These were the two custom doors I created in the last episode. And I can't select a handle. It's just not an option that's available with a fully custom door. I have no way to add a handle using parameters with the custom doors. Now, with the Graphisoft door, I can offset this handle vertically and in the X-axis as well. But those are the only two parameters I can adjust. I can't alter any of the pens or other attributes. It's a fixed size, it's a fixed appearance. Now this method will set the handle origin, the insertion point of the handle, based purely on the bounding box of the geometry. So in this case, the origin is down at the bottom right corner, which in our case is the XY00 of the bounding box, which is the bottom right corner here. As with the custom door method, this method requires me to create a new object, and I can do that under File, Libraries and Objects, New Object, or on my toolbar, it's this button here. I can restore down using this button here. On a Mac, it's right-click on the tab and choose Undock. Now select the subtype of Model Element, Custom Component Template, and Custom Handle. And that will fill out some parameters in here. I'll go to my 3D script Now, in this method, the orientation around the axis in the X, Y, and Z axes is important. So that's where I want my origin of my handle to be, center of the handle, center of the leaf style. And if I look in 3D, that is at project 0, so the Z0 as well. Now I've changed some surfaces so that you can tell the difference between the two methods, but the geometry is the same. So I select my geometry in the floor plan, go to my 3D window, and click on this button here, Generate Based Off Floor Plan Selection, and that will translate those elements into GDL. It's also a good idea to populate the preview picture, which you do by pasting an image out of the clipboard. And I'll save my object. So when I'm in a GDL editing environment, this save icon will save your object. Now I'll just call it Handle 2. Once again, you should save to an external location and give it a more descriptive name. But for this demonstration, that will do. Now I can select this handle in my Graphisoft door. So these are just two Graphisoft doors that I've placed. You may use an aftermarket door, which should have the functionality to add a custom handle as well. But this is the Graphisoft door, the out of the box, custom handle 2. Now, because I oriented my handle around the origin where I wanted it to be, it's got a slightly different insertion point to the Save As selection method, which automatically determines the origin or the insertion point. So that's two methods to deal with custom handles to use with doors that have been scripted to have custom handles as part of their object, such as Graphisoft doors. If I want these handles to appear on my custom doors, I have to save them as part of the door. There's no functionality to add a custom handle to this door after creation. So I place my handle where I want it to appear on my door. I'll also need to make a copy and flip it so it appears on the other side of my door. I can do this by turning the whole thing into a morph and rotating it as needed. So that red slab is my Warhol. If you watched the last episode, you will know what that's about. Now I can just save these as part of my door. To do that, run through the process of selecting all of my elements, including my door opening lines and Warhol, saving as a door. This is new door 1. Now if I look at my door, you'll notice two things about it. One is you can see the handles in here, and the other thing is it's pushed back inside the wall, because now this outside point is my Z origin, which is the outside of my wall. So it's a downside there. Now I can fix up the 2D to get rid of the handles, because we don't show handles in architectural drawings in plan. That's not our convention. I can fix that up as I showed you in the last episode by opening this object. I just did Control-Shift-O while it was selected, going to my 2D symbol, copying my 2D information, my 2D plan representation, like so. Then I get rid of my 2D script, and this will change. It will do two things. The handles will disappear, and this should jump up to there. So that's the way I want the 2D to represent, but it's actually in the wrong place. So that's a shortfall of this method. And so it's pushed in that distance. I'll just reset to default to get rid of those error messages. There we go. Now the way you deal with that is with the reveal to wall face. So my handle is 100 mil deep. So I will just set that reveal as -100. And that brings it flush with the face of the wall. And in my floor plan, the symbol has become proud of the wall. So all I do there is come back to my 2D symbol and shift that back the same 100. So its relationship to the 3D is accurate. I'll save that. There we go. The door is sitting flush with the wall, which matches the 3D. Unfortunately, I do have to use that reveal to wall face to get it to sit where it's supposed to. So bear that in mind when using this method. And then we've got the create from floor plan method. I open my door for editing using this button here, open object. I can find that in the file menu as well. Under file, libraries and objects, open object. Select all of my geometry, and in my 3D script, select all my scripts and override it with this generate button. Save. Now my 2D didn't need updating. Let's have a look. And that's got my handle there. Oops. I've got to make sure that my layer intersection priority is updated in plan as well. Let's do that again. There we go. Now what this means is that these elements are no longer handles that can be turned on and off with the MVO. They're fixed as part of the door. But if you need to show a handle in 3D for a custom door, that's how you do it. All right, let's move on to custom door leaves. These methods I've just shown you extend to creating custom leaves as well. Instead of the entire door, what I'll do is I'll just select the leaf itself. So I'll turn off the frame and just have the leaf. Select it, and again, the proximity to the XYZ axis isn't critical with this method. And I'll go File, Libraries and Objects, Save Selection as Door Leaf. And again, I can find this under my toolbar, my Edit GDL toolbar, with the drop-down arrow and go Door Leaf. Again, I'll be saving it to an embedded library. You save it to an external location as per your company standards, and I'll just call it Door Leaf 1. Save. We don't get the opportunity to create parameters and whatnot, but we do get this dialog telling us we've created a door leaf. Click OK. Now I can select this leaf. This is my Graphisoft door. I can select it under the relevant list, which is either under door leaf type. We've got a list here, or I can choose it under door settings and openings, which I get another list, which is represented differently, but it's the same list. And I choose custom door leaf, which is down the bottom, and I'll get presented with this drop-down list. Also some instructions on how to create a door leaf. And you can see I've already got a whole bunch in this project. Door leaf 1 is the one I'm after. So I'll choose that. You can see it's going to drop into this door. Now, sometimes when you do all this, particularly in larger projects, you do all this and this list here is empty. It can be very frustrating. I'll show you how to fix that later on. So we can see now that I've created my door leaf. It's using the Graphisoft door to cut the hole, place all the trims, and it's just substituting out the door leaf for the one I've created. I don't have to put in the opening lines or anything like that. I'll talk about the obvious flaws in a minute. Now with the create from floor plan method, the orientation around the project origin is critical and needs to be oriented with the hinge side in line with the origin. and the bottom of the door in line with the origin in the X and Y direction. I'll create my new object under File, Libraries and Objects, New Object, or this button here, New Object. I'll restore down. I'll just close these other ones. And from the subtype, I select Model Element, Custom Component Template, Custom Door Leaf. Select that. Fill out my properties, author, description, keywords, license, and I'll throw in a preview picture as well, which is just copied from the clipboard. Now I don't do this because it appears in the dialog, selection dialog, but it does appear in other object dialogues, and it makes identification easier, and it's just completeness in authoring your part. Go to my 3D, select my geometry, generate 3D script. There it is. I'll save my object. I'll call this door leaf 2. Now with this method, because I'm creating the object myself, I don't get that dialog, but that will now be sitting in my project library and I can use it as a custom leaf. So if I go to my other Graphisoft door leaf type, custom leaf, I've now got my door leaf 2 down here. Click OK, have a look, and there's my other custom door leaf. Right, pros and cons of these methods. So in the plan view, you don't have to worry about all of the surrounding scripts around creating a door. The open door leaf, that's parametric in its opening, the swing arc, all of the finishes and trims, the plan, masking, the wall opening, all of that is dealt with. I don't have to worry about any of that. My door leaf is actually 100 mil thick, so I can change that under my frame and leaf. So I've got here leaf thickness, I'll change that to 100, and that changes the thickness of my leaf there. What I don't get in plan is a more articulated version of my door leaf. So on the left here, this is what it should be looking like. It should have the outer frame, the inner glazing bars, and the glazing line. Whereas all I get here is a simple rectangle. Now in 3D, the wall hole is cut. All of the trims, reveals are dealt with. I've even got my opening line here. All the functionality of a Graphisoft door is still in play. But what you will notice is that the Graphisoft doors do not account for unusual shapes. You would have noticed straight away that these corner arcs are not catered for. Now, if your door has either got a square head or an arched head, then you should be able to make it work. But anything outside of that, and you have to go down a more custom route, either custom doors or get into the GDL of it. This door is the one we created using the Save Selection As method, or the door leaf rather. And you can see that it fits into the opening quite nicely. So its size corresponds with the door size. However, you will notice, of course, that the curves are no longer true curves. That circle is no longer a true circle. It's been scaled to fit the opening, squished. So although it fits the opening, it doesn't maintain its geometric trueness. This one on the left here, we created using the generate from floor plan method, create from floor plan, and it has maintained its true proportions and geometry, but it doesn't fit the opening. So then, of course, you've got graphical problems and you've got scheduling problems because the door leaf itself is not the right size. Now, there are ways around these shortcomings, but that gets into GDL, which I'll cover in future videos. Another thing that can happen on large projects, I'll reload my libraries, and I'll do that by going File, Libraries and Objects, Library Manager. I'll set up a shortcut key, and reload and apply. And you'll notice, my leaves have disappeared. What's going on there? If I have a look at my drop-down list, my drop-down list is empty. This is an incredible frustration sometimes on projects because there's no real help on trying to figure this out. But I figured it out, and I'll tell you. So what you need to do to fix this is, one, you need to make sure you don't have any duplicate parts in your library, or rather door leaves in your library. If I check my library manager, I don't have any duplicate parts listed down here. So that's the first step. To get rid of a duplicate, you don't just give it a new file name. There's actually a process you need to go through. So you open the part and then you go File, Save As. And when you go to save it to an external location, make sure that this Create New Library Part box is checked. And that will give your library part a new GUID. And that is how Archicad looks for duplicate names. Not by the file name itself, but by the GUID. So you need to make sure that's done. So no duplicate door leaves. The other thing you need to check with custom door leaves, we've got these two parameters that get created called col GUID and col name. You need to make sure that both of these are blank. Now mine are populated because I manually created this object. The one you save automatically is already blank. So if I open that one, door leaf 1, under parameters, these two parameters are blank. So that's what I need to do for my door leaf 2. Delete that, save. Right. I also need to reload my libraries. So I'll just hit my shortcut key, reload and apply. Now sometimes this works, sometimes it doesn't. In this case, it hasn't worked. So what I'll need to do is close and reopen my file. So I'll do that now. So I've closed and reopened my file, make sure I have no duplicate custom leaves, and made sure that in my custom leaves, all of those two parameters are blank. And there we go. My list is back. You'll notice also that the list has resorted. When I initially saved these, they were down the bottom. Now they're at the top. So when you reload your libraries, this list recompiles to be, not entirely sure, kind of is semi-alphabetical, semi-numerical. I'm not entirely sure how it sorts this list, but it's been sorted. And finally, by utilizing this methodology, we can piggyback on the object's response to MVOs, model view options. In the plan, that's the level of detail and the swing line. So if I change this to a different MVO that's simplified, these have been updated to suit the MVO. So a nice simplified representation and a straight line for an arc, because that's what I've selected. I go to detail level of door and window, it's simple. And under miscellaneous settings, my door line is straight. If I change that to curved, it updates. However, there's no such response in my fully custom doors. And in 3D, when I change it, you can see the response. All of my trims are gone. My door leaf has been filled in with a blank prism. Actually, it just looks like a blank plane. My opening lines are gone. And with my handles, let's turn on my handles. Custom handle. So I have blank handles here. Go through the same process. So I've cleared those parameters, reopen my file, handle 1 on that door, handle 2 on that door, and these can be controlled under miscellaneous settings and turn off my door handle accessory. Accessories in 3D, door handle. So that controls that. But if I go to a simplified setting, then the handles are turned off automatically. So are my door opening lines. Opening lines turned off. Under miscellaneous settings, turn them back on. There we go. Now, none of these have effect, as I said in the last video, on my fully custom doors. Only impacts those objects that have been scripted to deal with MPO changes. So with the save selection as method, the relationship or the proximity of the handle to the project origin isn't critical, but with the create from floor plan, it is, both for handles and leaves. With this save selection as method, the handle origin is at the bottom right of the bounding box of the geometry in the X, Y, and Z axes. With the create from floor plan, the origin is where you orient it around the origin. With the door leaves, save selection as method, the geometry will be scaled, stretched to fit the opening of the Graphisoft door. The create from floor plan, it will maintain its size, which could lead to a disconnect between what gets scheduled or modeled and what the actual door leaf is. Depending on the project and its requirements, one of these methods might be suitable for you before you jump into GDL. Now, the library part maker is another way that you can create custom doors, leaves, and handles. It's quite comprehensive if you've got the correct subscription, which I currently do not. However, I have done a video on how to use library part maker as part of Arch Intensive 2023 for Nathan Hildebrandt from Skewed, and I'll leave that link in the description. Okay, we are done. Now you know how to create custom door handles and custom door leaves so that you can make use of the inbuilt functionality of the Graphisoft doors, the out-of-the-box doors, or aftermarket doors that are scripted to deal with it. In the next video, we'll start jumping into the GDL side of things. I'll see you there.